How you doing, Lou?
Good. How are you, Pete?
Are you ready to go?
I am. We, you know, this is the 2015 is the 100th anniversary of Albert Einstein.
And you have the Albert Einstein
I have my
action
still
figure.
in box, my Albert Einstein action figure.
It's anatomically correct. That's the scary part
Yes.
about it. I don't know what's going on with that.
You know, if you drop him off the Tower of Pisa, no, I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. So shall we begin with our first guest?
Yeah. So you know, I was talking about Einstein because our first guest is rather intimate with his equations.
His equations, not him.
Well, I don't know.
Or not the anatomically correct action figure. Okay.
Why don't you bring out our first guest, Pete?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest is a relativistic physicist. Okay, before that scares anyone, she's actually really cool, and she's going to talk about the various applications of that. Please welcome Deirdre Shoemaker, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, Deirdre.
That's a scary intro.
Okay, so why is that scary? You're with the School of Physics at Georgia Tech.
Yes, but I barely know Albert, really.
Okay, so she's denying she wants
Yeah,
plausible
right.
deniability of
Any
Albert
intimacy
Einstein.
between
Okay.
Albert and myself.
All right, so I got to start with a question that's bugging me, because we were talking backstage about black holes. What is a black hole, and why do I care?
All right, a black hole is a dead sun or star. So stars get too big sometimes, and if they die really catastrophically, they can form a black hole.
So a dead star, like Ted Danson. Is really
You know, if he just ate a little bit more, it could happen. Nothing
Okay.
could keep
If
it
he
up
put
anymore.
on enough
Boom.
weight and then compressed himself.
That would be it. He'd be a black hole. And how many people here found this theater with a GPS? Anyone? I did too. Actually, I got lost once, even though I
How many
used my
people
GPS.
did not find the theater yet?
I didn't say that. Where are we? Well, your GPS needs general relativity to find this theater.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really cool, I think, about the work that Deirdre and others do, is that it really very applicable, that people think of this, you know, high energy physics, well, you're not high energy physics, but cosmology and astrophysics, all the relativistic Einstein's equations, you know, general relativity, how does that affect my everyday life? And GPS is an example.
Yep.
So with
This is
GPS, it's
10 years.
my understanding that I get to blame my demographic, the engineers, that we were told by the physicists to put in the corrections for relativity that, it's not going to make a difference in the GPS. And they literally, is that true? They turned it off and things got messed up.
Yeah, what I heard is that they had, it was a computer code up in the satellites, and they had the lines that would do the corrections for both where you are in a gravitational potential and how fast you're moving. So how fast you're moving makes you slow down. And if you're really high up, like a person on the top of the building, they're aging faster than someone on the bottom. And
So we're actually aging slightly faster than the first row.
6 inches
a little
faster.
bit feeling aging. Wait, no, they're better.
Oh,
I think
I'm-
you got that wrong.
If you're in the
I
back
think you
rows-
got that wrong.
Your back
They're
rows
wrong.
are embarrassing
We're
on the
aging
show.
faster.
Yes.
We get to die first.
Yeah, okay. It's very confusing up here. So, yeah, they commented out those lines of code, and then they turned on the satellite, and it was wrong. It was incorrect. You'll be incorrect within, a few minutes. You're off by about 10 meters. So they had to uncomment those codes.
Okay.
Victory for the relativist.
Victory.
So there it is. So there's an example of actual pure fundamental science making
pure.
a difference in your
I don't think
everyday life.
Albert sat down and said, I'm going to invent this theory so that GPS can be right.
Okay.
That was loud.
But I mean, it's a pretty small correction. You're basically correcting for the fact that your gravitational field is different depending on where you are, and if it's a real small
Yes.
change in velocity relative to the change in light.
It's because it's so
Right.
accurate. So your GPS is accurate to nanoseconds. So once you get really accurate with atomic clocks, you have to
Wow.
correct for things that seem unrelated to your everyday life.
Okay. So physics in your everyday life. What about physics not in your everyday life, right?
The stuff I actually do.
So,
It's in your everyday life.
good
It's
intro.
my everyday life.
So is that related to black holes and stuff that's far away?
Yeah, black holes are just the ultimate manifestation of that, right?
Okay. So you make it sound like,
I
the
collide
final
them.
band in coming out, and there's, the couple guys that
Well,
warm
they're
up,
nice, yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
black holes.
So I'm a black hole. I get on MARTA. Don't cross the event horizon,
You're
please.
killing me. So,
I'm married, but I'm a black hole.
what's up with
I
you
get
guys?
on MARTA. Another black hole bumps me on my shoulder.
He can't bump you, touches you. You're now one big black hole, happy forever together.
Happy
You
forever.
cannot remove them.
Black holes cannot touch.
So marriage equality applies to black holes.
That's right.
Done.
Can black holes get married in Georgia? That's what I want.
They can't get divorced.
The
That's
jury's
They can't
still
get
out.
divorced. That's why. So be careful.
Black holes
if you're
can't.
marrying
They
a black
can't get
hole.
divorced. It's what I actually, yeah, that's what I do.
But if, for example, our sun turn
Yes.
into a black hole.
Yes.
Would we be sucked into it?
No, we would die from lack of light, but our orbit would be the same. It's not a giant vacuum cleaner. That's always the question people ask me. Are black holes giant vacuum cleaners in the sky? No.
Okay.
You still have to get really close to it before you'd die. And then you would, but you'd be ripped apart tidally. We call it
'Cause the
spaghettification.
Gravity would sort of pull you.
Yeah,
in
so if you
And
put
then-
jump in, you'd be ripped.
Little particles of you would leak back out, right?
Well, that's quantum
Hawking
effects.
radiation?
Yeah, that's a little tricky though, but yeah.
It's tricky.
That one's getting tricky. It's a little beyond, I think. where
Yeah,
we're
it's not a talk show topic.
at.
You're gonna have to take her class for that.
You can? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, so we'd survive, we just wouldn't have any light, so that would be a problem.
So we would
Plant
die.
matter,
Yeah, I
things
feel
that.
like that's someone else out here would help us with that.
Excellent.
than
We're
plant
gonna
matter.
have to have you back with with
Yeah.
a cosmologist.
Right.
Yeah,
But our
yeah.
sun, kind of teeny weeny, probably not going to turn into a black hole.
It will not. No, we will die for other reasons, but no.
Okay, and Lou will die.
I will
for
die.
The fact that nobody really likes him.
Slightly before
It'll happen.
all of
Because
these
he's up
people.
here, inches.
All right, well, thank you,
Yeah,
Deirdre.
thank you, Deirdre.
Dr. Shoemaker, let's
Yep.
hear it for her.
Hey guys.
Oh, wait,
you're gonna
Wait, I go over here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you
moving
scoot
down.
down. You
I
scoot
was
down.
hoping I could leave. You are a black hole.
I know.
On this stage forever.
I've heard
Right,
that so
so-
many times.
Just kidding.
So now we're going to welcome our next guest, who had some very interesting conversation backstage. He is a cognitive scientist, a behavioral cognitive scientist.
Neuroscientist, I believe.
Neuroscientist, you are correct. Behavioral neuroscientist from Georgia State University. Please welcome to the show, Joe Normandin.
Look at all those people doing people things, and I have
That's
to talk in
nice.
front of them.
So, but you teach at Georgia State.
I
Don't you
do.
talk
I
in
do.
front of people?
Yeah, but this feels different. I feel like I'm somehow not an expert right now, but I guess I am because I have a PhD. Huh?
Okay, but we're required to actually behave like people. That's the difference.
That's the problem. I'm
But-
used to being a nerd.
So let's start with the area of your neuroscience research, which is something relatable to by all people.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that would be,
Sex. I study
Okay,
sex.
this is-
Yes.
so for all the people that brought young children, good luck.
But it might not be as fun as you're thinking because my animal model is a rat. So
Okay.
I've watched a lot of rat sex. Not as fun as perhaps watching other kind of
Is that legal in the state of Georgia?
What
Lou?
exactly was that URL?
Ratsex.org. I'm guessing.
But it's a fantastic model to study some of the basic aspects of the brain and how our brain also functions. So.
Okay, but I have to ask that. So, so what you're doing, animal models. A lot of times scientists use animal models. We want to pick the best animal model, right? Ironically, pigs, good model for humans in some respects. Are rats decent models for human sexuality?
It's actually a great question because for some aspects of our sexuality, no, and others, yes. So for example, the type of the rat, which is one type of rodent, right? It's not a good model for studying things like love or bonding between individuals. But there are other rodents that do form those bonds that might be great models for studying love and bonding. They're called voles, for example. And there's some people at Emory that study that. However, I'm on the other end of things, so to speak, which is, and the rat is a great model for that. So the rat muscles for the genitalia are very similar to ours.
I know.
We don't know how you know.
It's very scary.
I've read his papers.
Okay.
Jeez, you people.
There was interesting discussion about rat boners earlier in the green room. Yeah,
Is that the
so
technical term?
that is
Hashtag rat boners.
not the technical term,
Okay.
no.
Would it rat erection would be?
That would be better, yeah.
And you just threw boner in there to let them think you're a normal human
I'm a
being.
normal human being. Yep.
Can we keep this in the Latin, please?
Okay.
So my work basically revolved around how our brain regulates genital reflexes. So things like erection, ejaculation, vaginocervical contractions, the things that happen during orgasm that are not the good feelings, but rather all the stuff, the motor stuff that's happening down there during sex.
Okay.
And what's interesting is I call them reflexes. And a reflex is a very simple neural pathway or system where you have some kind of sensory input, like a feeling, and that elicits an automatic unconscious response, right? So in terms of sex, something like ejaculation is actually a reflex. We don't need our brain to do that. But our brain, now if you think about this, just a little,
Lou concurs.
So what
He
I'm
doesn't need his brain for a lot of things, actually. It's driving.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
So what I'm saying is, a little touchy-touchy on the genitalia results in something like an ejaculation, but in fact, that's not what happens to us every day, right? Because
Thank goodness.
In your case, Pete, every year.
Okay. That's, if
Well-
I'm lucky.
so when we put our clothes on in the morning, our genitalia are being touched and they're receiving sensory information, right? But we don't have any kind of sexual response because our brain puts a brake on that. And my research was all about that brake and how it works.
So rat sexuality research has actually taught us a little bit about that thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So one of the interesting things is, when people take antidepressants, one of the side effects for this is that they have delayed orgasm or very difficult to have an appropriate sexual response.
Right.
And we want people to be taking their antidepressants to treat their depression and also to have this appropriate sexual response. And so through studying animal models, we've been able to learn where these drugs are acting in this pathway in the brain that's basically really stepping on the brake that I was talking about.
Okay. So that sounds like a really important application.
Absolutely.
And is that the application you cite when someone locally from Congress calls you up and say, why are we funding this kind of research?
Absolutely. Yep.
Hashtag rat boner.
Okay. All right, so my final last question on this is there any applicability to middle school kids walking around carrying their books in front of them, things like that?
Advice he could give.
There is actually. So one of the things that I found in studying this pathway in the brain where this brake is, right, is that it's very sensitive to hormones. And we know, of course, during puberty, we start, our gonads, our he's
keeping it in the lab a
our
little bit.
balls,
He's okay.
and in women, ovaries. They start producing a lot of hormones. Right?
Hashtag rat boner's trending, by the way.
And oh boy, those lights are really hot. So yeah, during this time, these hormones are all floating around in the bloodstream, and this brake is sensitive to that, and it actually turns the brake down. We think. I can't say that for sure, but that's the hypothesis.
So bizarre rat sexuality that you can use, ladies and gentlemen. All right, thank you very much. Thank
Let's
you.
have a hand for Joe Normandin and Deirdre Shoemaker.